He thought it was a routine ship breakdown and fixed it. Unaware it belonged to the Queen, Eli Varn wiped his greasy hands on a worn cloth and leaned back, squinting at the starship before him. It wasn't the largest vessel in Docking Bay 9, and it certainly didn't look like anything extraordinary at first glance. Still, there was something about the way it sat, half-powered and humming faintly, that made him uneasy. A strange ship had drifted in earlier that morning. No identification markings, no registration code, no accompanying fleet. Just it alone in the human-maintained docking bay at the edge of known space. For Eli, this was just another day. He was used to unusual ships. That's why he had a reputation as the best mechanic in the sector, though no one seemed to notice him outside the port. Humans in the galactic community often had to prove themselves twice as hard as any alien engineer, simply because humans weren't known for technology on their own. But Eli had something no computer or alien program could replace: intuition. He could look at a system and almost feel where it was breaking down, a gift he had honed from years of practice and frustration alike. He crouched by the ship's landing gear, inspecting the connection points. They were pristine, almost untouched, but the hum from the ship told him something was wrong deeper inside. He tapped the control panel with a gloved finger. Nothing. He frowned. Most ships like this had simple issues: fuel misalignment, minor energy leaks, or worn wiring. But this hum, it was irregular, almost like it was resisting power, as if the vessel itself didn't want to start. Eli straightened up, pulling a compact diagnostic tool from his belt. It beeped quietly as it interfaced with the ship's systems. He blinked. Data streamed across the small screen, indecipherable to most humans and even more so to alien technicians. But to him, the patterns made sense. The pulse of the ship's energy core was off by just a fraction, barely noticeable, but enough to prevent activation. Most engineers would have called it a faulty power source and replaced it. Eli knew better. He muttered under his breath, "Nothing's broken. It's resisting me for a reason." As he opened the maintenance hatch and stepped inside, the interior of the ship surprised him. Sleek walls glimmered with a faint metallic sheen, lights pulsing rhythmically along the panels. The design was unlike any he had seen in the human sector. Alien ships were common, yes, but this one, it felt deliberate. Elegant, precise, purposeful. Not a warship, not a cargo vessel, something personal. He frowned. Whatever it was delicate. He approached the energy core, a crystalline structure glowing faintly. It was intricate, almost alive. Eli's fingers hovered just above it. He had repaired cores before, but this one was different. There were no visible faults, no damaged components. Yet the hum, it vibrated in a strange pattern. He closed his eyes, focusing, letting instinct guide him. "You can do this," he whispered to himself. "Just listen." And then it clicked. The fault wasn't physical. It was a calibration issue, tiny misalignments that no alien engineer would consider important. But to a human mind trained in adaptability, the error screamed for correction. Eli adjusted a series of microaligners, a motion so subtle it could be mistaken for brushing dust from the panel. The core pulsed brighter, then steadied. He stepped back, holding his breath. The hum shifted. It was smoother now, almost content. Eli's lips curved into a small smile. Routine? Hardly, but repaired, absolutely. He wiped his hands again and leaned against the wall. The job was done. Nothing more, nothing less. Just a mechanic and another ship ready to fly. He didn't know that from a distance. A figure watched him. Hidden behind the docking bay's reinforced glass, a shadowy presence observed every movement. Elite sensors on the dock usually ignored small details like this, but the observer's eyes missed nothing. The subtle adjustments Eli made, the gentle confidence with which he approached the unknown, unusual for a human, noteworthy for the ship's owner. Eli didn't see it, of course. He never did. Humans were small players, often overlooked. Yet here he was, unknowingly standing before a puzzle even the galaxy's greatest minds couldn't solve. A soft chime interrupted his thoughts. The docking bay's central console lit up, signaling the ship's activation. Eli stepped back as the panels glimmered and the ship's systems came online. The once faint hum now resonated powerfully, steady and strong. His heart skipped a beat. He had done it. He had repaired the impossible. "Not bad," he muttered, half to himself. "Could have been worse." Then the ship's hatch hissed open, revealing a compartment he hadn't noticed before. A holographic projection flickered to life, displaying strange symbols in bright colors, elegant and elaborate. Eli blinked, unsure if it was a message or some decorative display. He had never seen anything like it. "What in the—" he muttered, stepping closer. His instincts screamed caution, but curiosity won. The projection shifted suddenly, forming a humanoid figure with tall, regal posture. Its eyes glimmered with intelligence and authority. The figure spoke, the voice calm but commanding, and Eli froze. "You have done what no one else could," it said. The language was unfamiliar, but the tone carried universal understanding. Eli, surprisingly, understood every word. It wasn't the words themselves, it was the meaning, the clarity. Eli swallowed. I just fixed your ship," he stammered. "I didn't mean—" The figure's eyes, piercing and unblinking, held him in place. Slowly it extended a slender hand, elegant and deliberate. "You repaired my vessel, that makes you remarkable." Eli stepped back. "Your vessel?" he asked, voice barely above a whisper. "Yes," the figure said. "It belongs to me. I am Saralia, Queen of Zyrathia." Eli's jaw nearly hit the floor. He had heard of the Zyrathians, a civilization known across galaxies for their power, their influence, and their unmatched technology. They rarely interacted with humans. And now here he was, standing in a docking bay at the edge of human space, having repaired the personal ship of one of the most powerful beings in the known galaxy. He blinked several times, trying to process it. I didn't know," he managed. I fixed what I saw broken." Ceralia's lips curved in what could almost be considered a smile. "And yet you succeeded where my best engineers failed. You possess a mind unlike any I have encountered." Eli felt a mixture of pride and terror. Humans weren't expected to impress aliens of this magnitude. They were often underestimated, their achievements dismissed as coincidence or luck. But here, in this moment, his work spoke louder than centuries of prejudice. "I thank you," he said, voice shaking slightly. But really it was just observation and adjustment, nothing fancy. Saralia inclined her head. "Humility and clarity, traits humans often overlook in themselves, yet they serve you well. You think differently. You solve problems differently. That is why you succeeded." Eli's mind raced. "So, you're saying humans can actually do things others can't?" Saralia's eyes gleamed. "Humans are underestimated across many systems. They do not always possess the technology of advanced civilizations, yet they adapt, they improvise, and they think creatively. That is strength beyond measure." Eli's chest swelled with a mixture of pride and disbelief. No one had ever said such things about humans to him, especially not an alien queen. Saralia's gaze softened. "You have done more than repair my ship. You have demonstrated the potential of your people. That is significant." Eli swallowed hard. I don't know what to say." "I just fix things." "You fix more than machines," Saralia said. "You fix problems others cannot even recognize. That is rare." There was a pause, and Eli felt the weight of her attention. He wanted to speak, but the words seemed small, insignificant compared to the grandeur of the moment. Finally, he managed. I guess I just see the path where others see walls." Saralia's eyes glimmered with approval. "Precisely. You see clearly when others are blind. That is why I need your assistance further. A threat looms on the edge of our space, one that my engineers cannot predict and one that may require the insight of a human mind." Eli blinked, caught off guard. "A threat? What kind of threat?" Saralia's expression remained calm, but her tone carried the weight of urgency. "I will explain soon. For now, know this. You have already begun a path few humans ever travel. Your talents will be needed beyond this dock. You will journey where no human has before, and your choices may shape the fate of more than your own species." Eli's heart raced. He had repaired a ship, a simple task in his mind, and yet it had placed him on the edge of something vast, something bigger than anything he had imagined. The hum of the ship behind him pulsed steadily, a heartbeat of energy, of life, and of possibility. For the first time in his life, Eli understood the truth. Humans could make a difference, not because of power or numbers, but because of mind, courage, and ingenuity. He had proven it today, and somehow, the universe had noticed. Saralia stepped back, her presence commanding yet oddly reassuring. "Rest for now, human. Soon your path will become clear. Prepare yourself. The galaxy has waited for minds like yours." Eli nodded, still trembling, still uncertain, but filled with a newfound purpose. He had been a mechanic, fixing the broken and overlooked. Now he was something more, and as he left the docking bay, hands still smudged with grease, he couldn't help but smile. Whatever lay ahead, he knew one thing. Humanity had a place among the stars, and he would help prove it. The ordinary man who had fixed a ship without knowing its owner had changed the course of history. All because he had done what humans did best. Think, adapt, and never underestimate what one mind could achieve. Eli sat on the edge of the docking bay, staring at the vast expanse of stars beyond the transparent walls. The hum of the Queen's ship had settled into a steady rhythm, almost like a heartbeat. His hands still bore smudges of grease, a reminder of the work he had done moments ago, work that had unexpectedly placed him in the orbit of one of the galaxy's most powerful beings. A soft, melodic chime echoed through the bay, and Eli turned to see the Queen herself approaching. Cerelia moved with an elegance that seemed effortless, her long form gliding over the smooth metal floor. Her eyes, bright and piercing, fixed on him with curiosity. Behind her, an entourage of Zyrathian advisors and guards trailed silently, their expressions unreadable. Eli swallowed hard. "You are coming with me," Cerelia said, her voice calm yet firm. "There is more to understand, and time is short." Eli hesitated. I don't know anything about your technology," he said. "I fixed your ship, yes, but I'm just a mechanic. Your mind is what matters," Cerelia interrupted. "Your skill is not in knowing, but in seeing. That is what we need." Eli nodded, unsure if he was nervous or exhilarated, or both. He followed her aboard the ship, stepping into a world that seemed more like a living organism than a machine. Walls shimmered with flowing patterns of light, panels adjusted automatically to his movement, and soft vibrations pulsed beneath his feet. Every surface seemed to react to his presence. Cerelia led him to the ship's command center. A massive viewport revealed the black expanse of space, dotted with distant stars and the faint glimmer of alien fleets on patrol. Eli could barely keep his eyes on the instruments before him. They were unlike anything he had ever seen. "Your job," Cerelia began, "is to identify a problem my engineers cannot foresee." She gestured toward a holographic display projecting several smaller ships in formation. "These vessels are part of my fleet. They are stable, functional, and well-maintained. Yet something is wrong. The systems will fail under stress. We do not know why." Eli studied the display. "Stress like combat navigation." "Possibly both," Cerelia replied. "We have run simulations, but the results are inconclusive. My engineers claim everything is functioning. Yet instinct tells me otherwise, and instinct can be wrong. That is why I require your insight." Eli felt a chill. He had never faced anything like this. For a human mechanic, most problems were physical: broken engines, misaligned circuits, leaks. This was something different, something alive in a way he couldn't measure. And yet, deep down, he felt a spark of confidence. He had fixed the impossible before. Maybe he could do it again. He moved closer to the console, letting his hands hover over the holographic interface. Numbers, symbols, and patterns shifted before him, reacting to his gaze. He squinted, focusing. Most alien systems relied on rigid logic, precise measurements, and centuries of design tradition. Humans thought differently. We improvise, we see patterns others overlook. And Eli began to see it, a tiny discrepancy in the fleet's energy distribution. A micro-variation in propulsion alignment. It was subtle, almost invisible, but it existed. His mind raced as he traced the flow of power through the fleet's network. Every alien engineer would have dismissed it as within acceptable limits, but not him. "This," he said, pointing to the holographic display, "this is the problem. The ships are stable for now, but under pressure the core energy feedback will cascade. It will overload the secondary systems. That's why your simulations are inconsistent. The system doesn't fail under normal conditions. It fails when pushed." Cerelia leaned in, her eyes narrowing as she studied his analysis. "Explain further." Eli took a deep breath. "Your fleet systems are interconnected in a way that's efficient but fragile. Each ship compensates for small variations in energy flow. But if one ship's output spikes or dips even slightly, the chain reaction spreads. Eventually, it could shut down the fleet's critical functions. If this happens in combat, you could lose multiple vessels in seconds." A murmur ran through the Queen's advisors. One of them, tall and stern, spoke in the Zyrathian tongue. The words were rapid, urgent. Eli didn't understand them, but the tone was clear. They doubted him. They didn't believe a human could see what their centuries of study had missed. Cerelia raised a hand, silencing them. "He speaks correctly. Show us human." Eli nodded, feeling a sudden surge of determination. He had no idea if the Queen would trust him, or if the fleet would survive his insight, but he would prove it. He manipulated the holographic interface, simulating a minor fluctuation in one vessel's output. Almost immediately, the cascading failure spread across the fleet in the projection. He adjusted key parameters, rerouted energy flows, and stabilized the simulation. The projection steadied. No failures, no disruptions. Eli exhaled slowly, realizing he had done it. Ceralia's gaze softened, a rare display of approval from a Zyrathian royal. "Remarkable," she said. "You have not only identified the problem, but solved it before it occurs. Few in my civilization could achieve this. You are extraordinary." Eli swallowed. "I just look for the pattern. It made sense once I saw it." "Pattern recognition," Ceralia said. "Observation and understanding. These are strengths humans possess that many civilizations ignore. Your kind is underestimated, yet capable of brilliance beyond expectation." Eli felt a warmth in his chest. Humans rarely received recognition from alien royalty, especially from one as influential as Ceralia. And yet here he was, proving that the simple, adaptable thinking of humanity could rival centuries of alien training and technology. "You will accompany me to the fleet," Ceralia continued. "I want your insight applied directly. The situation is delicate and your human perspective may prevent a disaster." Eli hesitated. "Me, go out there. I don't have any combat training, I'm not." "Not all battles are fought with weapons," Ceralia said. "Some are fought with minds. You are armed for this one." For a moment, Eli felt fear. The fleet was massive and the stakes higher than anything he had ever faced. And yet beneath the fear was a thrill. This was the kind of challenge humans thrived on, complex, unpredictable, and impossible by conventional standards. He was exactly where he belonged. I'll do it," he said finally. "Good," Ceralia replied. "You will see, human, that ingenuity can surpass technology, and courage can exceed fear. You will remind the galaxy why humanity is not to be underestimated." Eli followed her out of the command center and down a corridor that shimmered with adaptive lighting. He noticed the subtle ways the ship seemed to anticipate movement, panels adjusting height, floor textures shifting slightly to support steps. It was a marvel of engineering, but he couldn't let awe distract him. His mind was focused on the task ahead. As they reached the docking bay where smaller vessels waited, Ceralia stopped. "Your first test begins now. Observe, analyze, and advise. The fleet is ready for deployment, but I will not send it into unknown space without your confirmation." Eli nodded, stepping closer to the holographic interface again. Ships shimmered in the projection, each one detailed in intricate layers of energy flow, propulsion, and internal systems. He studied them carefully, noting subtle variances. A secondary power conduit in one vessel pulsed faster than it should. Another showed minor resistance in the energy matrix. Each issue was minor in isolation, but could cascade catastrophically. He took a deep breath and began adjusting parameters, rerouting energy, balancing outputs. The projection stabilized under his guidance. The fleet would hold. His hands moved quickly, efficiently, guided by instinct as much as knowledge. Ceralia watched silently, her expression unreadable. Finally, she spoke. "It is done," Eli nodded. "Yes, the fleet is balanced. If my calculations are correct, they can operate at full capacity without risk of cascading failures." The advisors murmured again, clearly skeptical. But Ceralia's gaze met his, unwavering. "Human," she said, "you have saved my fleet before it even left the dock. That is invaluable. Few beings could achieve such foresight." Eli felt a surge of pride. I just did what seemed logical." "Logic is powerful, but intuition is rarer," Ceralia replied. "You possess both. That is why you are here. That is why humanity will never be forgotten in this galaxy." For the first time, Eli truly understood the weight of his actions. He was just one human, small and underestimated, yet he had prevented a disaster that could have affected thousands. His mind, his perspective, his ability to see what others could not, had made the difference. "Prepare yourself," Ceralia said, turning toward the exit. "The next stage of your journey begins. You will leave the dock and travel with me. Observation and action will both be required. Do you understand?" Eli nodded. "Yes, Your Majesty." She inclined her head, a gesture of approval. "Then let us proceed. The galaxy has been waiting for minds like yours, and it will not wait forever." As they boarded a smaller command vessel, Eli felt a mixture of awe and determination. He had been a mechanic, fixing the overlooked and underestimated. Now he was a strategist, a problem solver whose mind could rival even the most advanced alien engineers. And as the stars stretched before him, infinite and bright, he knew one thing for certain. Humanity had a place among them, and he would help prove it, one challenge at a time. The ordinary human who had fixed a ship without knowing its owner was no longer ordinary. He had become a symbol of human potential, a reminder that courage, creativity, and insight could reshape the galaxy. And Eli, for all his doubt and uncertainty, was ready to embrace that responsibility. The Queen's vessel glided smoothly into the void of space, carrying with it a human mind that would soon be tested in ways no one could foresee. And for Eli, the adventure had only just begun. Eli stared at the holographic projection hovering above the command console, the glow reflecting in his wide eyes. The Queen's fleet stretched across the display like a glittering web of lights, each vessel perfectly formed yet, under the surface, dangerously fragile. He had stabilized them at the dock, but now they were in motion, moving through uncharted space, and the stakes were higher than ever. "This is it," Cerelia said, her voice calm, yet carrying an intensity that set Eli on edge. "The fleet is entering a sector where gravitational anomalies are common. Sensors indicate potential turbulence and energy interference. My engineers say it is safe, but my intuition warns otherwise. Your insight is required." Eli swallowed hard. Space anomalies were unpredictable even in simulations, and he had never experienced them firsthand. He had fixed machines on docks in hangars under calm conditions. Now he would face forces beyond his training, yet somewhere deep inside he felt ready. Humans thrived on challenges, especially when adaptation was the only option. "Show me what I need to do," he said, moving closer to the interface. Cerelia gestured toward the holographic controls. "Observe first. The fleet's energy distribution will fluctuate as we enter the anomaly. You must monitor and adjust in real time, predict failures before they occur. And remember, human, intuition is your greatest weapon." Eli nodded, focusing. The fleet shimmered, stars streaking past in the viewport as they advanced into the unknown. Immediately, subtle irregularities appeared in the projection. Tiny fluctuations in power, minor shifts in trajectory, small variances in the energy cores. Any one of them could escalate if ignored. He adjusted the first vessel, rerouting energy to compensate for a spike. The simulation of the anomaly caused a ripple through the holographic fleet. Eli traced the ripple carefully, following it to the next ship. He made minor recalibrations, steadying the system. The ripple slowed. "Good," Cerelia said. "Continue." Hours passed, or maybe minutes. It was impossible to tell in the shifting light of the ship. Eli's hands moved constantly, adjusting, rerouting, calculating. The holographic fleet pulsed and shimmered, responding to his guidance. And yet, despite his efforts, a sudden spike appeared in the central column of vessels. Energy surged uncontrollably. Eli's heart leapt. "That's the central cluster. If that core overloads, it will cascade across the fleet." Cerelia's eyes narrowed. "Then stop it, human." He took a deep breath, remembering every principle he had learned as a mechanic. Observation first, then prediction, then action. He traced the anomaly to its source, a hidden energy resonance forming around a gravitational vortex. No sensors had detected it. It was subtle, almost invisible to alien technology, but Eli saw the pattern. He acted fast. "Divert auxiliary power through the secondary conduits," he shouted. "Rebalance the cores individually, don't let them synchronize." The holographic fleet wavered, then stabilized. The spike slowed, then disappeared. Eli exhaled, his hands trembling slightly from the intensity. "That should hold it for now," he muttered. Cerelia's lips curved, just barely, in a look that Eli thought was approval. "Remarkable. You predicted the failure and corrected it before it escalated. Few beings could do this. Humans are indeed extraordinary." Eli felt pride, but it was tempered with worry. "It's not permanent," he said. "The anomaly is still out there. Another fluctuation could cause a problem." "You are correct," Cerelia said, "which is why I need you to stay vigilant. The fleet trusts you as much as it trusts my engineers. Do not underestimate your role." Eli nodded, wiping sweat from his forehead. He hadn't felt this alive in years. Mechanics' work was usually quiet, repetitive. But this was life, unpredictability, danger, and intellect all combined. Humans were made for challenges like this. The anomaly grew stronger as the fleet advanced. Sensors flared with energy spikes, and even the Queen's seasoned officers looked worried. Eli noticed that while alien engineers relied on rigid formulas, he could improvise. When a vessel began to drift off course, he adjusted its trajectory manually, using a combination of predictive modeling and gut instinct. The ship responded immediately, back in line with the formation. One of the alien advisors muttered under his breath in Zyrathian, clearly frustrated. Eli didn't understand the words, but the tone was clear: distrust. They didn't believe a human could manage such a complex situation. But Cerelia remained calm, her gaze steady on Eli. "You see," she said softly, "humans do not think in absolutes. You adjust, adapt, and act without waiting for confirmation from centuries of tradition. That is why you succeed." Eli felt a thrill. It was true. He wasn't bound by centuries of rigid rules. He could improvise. He could see the connections others missed. And right now, that made all the difference. Suddenly, the anomaly shifted violently. Energy waves slammed against the fleet, and several vessels began to falter. Warnings blared across the consoles. Eli's fingers flew over the controls. Stabilize the secondary cores, divert shield energy, compensate for feedback loops. The projection showed ships trembling, almost ready to collapse under the strain. Eli didn't hesitate. He isolated the failing systems, rerouted energy through auxiliary networks, and synchronized the cores manually. The fleet shuddered, then held. Cerelia exhaled, a rare display of relief. "You have saved them again," she said. "Your mind is a weapon, human, sharper than any blade or cannon." Eli wiped his brow, exhausted but exhilarated. I don't know if I can keep up like this," he admitted. "This anomaly, it's unpredictable." "That is precisely why I brought you," Cerelia said. "Aliens are predictable, machines are predictable, but humans are not. You see patterns, adapt to chaos, and act before the problem fully manifests. That is strength." Hours stretched into what felt like days. The fleet slowly passed through the turbulent sector, with Eli monitoring and adjusting each ship as needed. Occasionally, a vessel would display minor malfunctions, and he would correct them instantly. The Queen's officers watched in amazement, realizing that the human before them was performing feats no alien engineer had predicted. Finally, the fleet emerged into calmer space. Stars stretched endlessly in the void, untouched by the gravitational distortions of the anomaly. The vessels glimmered like a constellation, intact, functional, and steady. Eli sank into his chair, hands shaking but smiling. "You did it," Cerelia said quietly, placing a hand on his shoulder. "You have ensured the fleet's survival where others would have failed. Your insight has proven invaluable." Eli exhaled, still processing everything. I just used what humans do best," he said. "We adapt, we improvise, we solve problems no one else sees." Cerelia's eyes gleamed. "Indeed, that is why I brought you here. That is why humanity has a role in this galaxy that cannot be ignored. Your ingenuity, courage, and foresight have saved more than ships today. You have saved lives. And you have proven that humans can match, and sometimes surpass, the greatest civilizations in thought and action." For the first time, Eli felt the full weight of his impact. He had always considered himself a simple mechanic, a fixer of engines and circuits. But now he realized he had done more than repair a ship. He had guided an entire fleet through disaster, using nothing but his mind, intuition, and human adaptability. "Thank you," he said quietly. I never imagined I could do something like this." Cerelia's lips curved in a small, approving smile. "You underestimate your species, as they often do. Humans are capable of extraordinary feats when they trust their instincts and act with courage. You have done exactly that." Eli looked out the viewport at the fleet, gleaming and safe, and felt a swell of pride. He had done the impossible, not because of technology or force or overwhelming power, but because of the unique qualities humans possessed: ingenuity, adaptability, creativity. "Humanity," he muttered under his breath, "we really can make a difference." Cerelia's voice interrupted his thoughts. "Prepare yourself. There are more challenges ahead. The galaxy is vast, unpredictable, and sometimes dangerous. But I see now that humans have a place in it that no one should underestimate. You, Eli Varn, will continue to prove this truth." He nodded, feeling both fear and excitement. The galaxy was bigger and stranger than anything he had imagined, yet he no longer felt small or powerless. He had faced impossible odds and prevailed. He had relied on human skill, human ingenuity, and human courage, and it had been enough. As the fleet moved steadily into uncharted space, Eli understood that this was only the beginning. The Queen had chosen him not just because he could fix machines, but because he represented what humans could achieve when they were underestimated, challenged, and given the chance to prove themselves. And Eli was ready. He was no longer just a mechanic. He was a human mind standing against the unknown, capable of facing challenges no one else could. The galaxy had tested him, and he had succeeded. And as he watched the stars stretch endlessly ahead, he felt a sense of purpose he had never known before. Humans were small, yes, but in thought, creativity, and courage they could be unstoppable. And Eli Varn, ordinary mechanic no longer, was about to show the universe just how extraordinary his kind could be. The stars stretched endlessly ahead as Eli Varn stood at the command console aboard the Queen's vessel. The fleet moved in precise formation behind them, gleaming under the soft glow of distant suns. The turbulence of the anomaly was behind them, but Ceralia's expression told Eli that their journey was far from over. "Human," she said, her tone calm but firm, "what you have accomplished so far is extraordinary, but the next challenge will test not only skill, but judgment, courage, and the very essence of ingenuity." Eli swallowed, trying to steady his racing heart. He had faced simulations and anomalies, but now the Queen's words hinted at something even greater, something unpredictable. Yet beneath the apprehension, a thrill coursed through him. Humans thrived on challenges, especially those that seemed impossible. "What is it?" he asked. "There is a sector ahead," Ceralia began, gesturing toward the vast map projected before them, "where the gravitational fields fluctuate violently. Ships that enter without careful calculation are torn apart or stranded. My fleet must pass through, but I cannot guarantee the outcome. You will guide them." Eli studied the projection. It was a chaotic maze of energy patterns, gravitational surges, and potential hazards. Each path seemed as dangerous as the next. Most alien navigators would rely on rigid protocols or complex calculations that assumed ideal conditions. Eli knew those methods would fail here. Humans thrived on flexibility, on rapid adaptation. "All right," he said. "Let's do this." The fleet approached the sector. Sensors immediately began to flare, detecting sudden gravitational spikes. Vessels rocked, alarms blared, and the Queen's officers tensed. Eli's hands moved quickly over the console. "Divert energy to the stabilizers, compensate for shifts in the central column. Adjust thrust vectors individually." The holographic projection pulsed with movement. Ships responded to his commands, swaying like dancers in a storm. Several vessels nearly collided with one another, but Eli anticipated their paths, rerouting energy and adjusting trajectories with split-second timing. One ship, a massive carrier, faltered as a gravitational spike surged beneath it. Eli traced the problem instantly. "Auxiliary thrusters to lateral stabilizers. Balance the secondary cores manually," he shouted. The carrier steadied, moving back into alignment. Ceralia watched silently, her piercing gaze never leaving him. Eli could feel her approval, subtle but unmistakable. He realized that while aliens relied on centuries of tradition, humans relied on instinct, intuition, and adaptability, and right now that was saving the fleet. Hours passed, though time felt meaningless. Eli's mind was a constant flurry of calculations, predictions, and adjustments. Every shift in the sector brought new problems. One ship's shield system overloaded, threatening to collapse. Another vessel's energy core oscillated dangerously. Eli corrected them all, improvising solutions faster than the Queen's advisors could comprehend. "You are remarkable," Ceralia said quietly, almost to herself. "You do not follow rules, you create them in real time." Eli glanced at her, breathing heavily. I just see what needs to happen and make it happen," he said. "It's how humans survive. We adapt, we improvise, that's all." "Not all humans," she replied. "Few possess your insight, courage, and clarity. You are exceptional." Suddenly, the fleet entered a narrow passage between two massive gravitational anomalies. Sensors flared wildly. Energy spikes threatened to tear ships apart. Eli's hands flew over the controls. "Central core outputs to 50%, lateral thrusters to maximum. Adjust vector angles by 3 degrees starboard." One vessel began to spin uncontrollably, alarms screaming. Eli traced the problem. The feedback loop had amplified unexpectedly. He took a deep breath and acted. "Divert auxiliary energy to counterspin. Activate emergency stabilizers, synchronize with adjacent ships manually." The vessel shuddered violently but stabilized, returning to formation. Eli's fingers trembled from the intensity of the effort. Around him, alarms blared constantly, but the fleet remained intact. The Queen's advisors whispered among themselves, clearly astonished. One spoke rapidly in Zyrathian, pointing at the display and gesturing toward Eli. He didn't understand the words, but their meaning was clear: disbelief. No alien engineer could perform so many precise adjustments under such chaotic conditions, yet Eli, a human, was doing it effortlessly. Cerelia placed a hand on his shoulder. "Do not doubt yourself. Your mind is your greatest weapon. Trust it." Eli nodded, renewing his focus. The fleet continued through the sector, facing challenge after challenge. Each gravitational spike, each energy surge, each unpredicted shift tested his skills. Yet each time he adapted, improvised, and succeeded. The human mind, flexible and fearless, proved invaluable against the rigidity of conventional technology. Hours later, the fleet emerged from the treacherous sector. Stars stretched endlessly before them, unbroken by gravitational chaos. Eli sank into the command chair, exhausted but alive with exhilaration. Every ship in the fleet remained intact. Not a single vessel was lost. Cerelia's expression softened. "You have done what no one else could. You have guided the fleet through a sector that would have destroyed them. Your mind, human, has saved lives and proven that adaptability and courage are as vital as any technology." Eli exhaled, still catching his breath. I didn't do it alone. The ships are advanced." "The Queen, you guided me too, but yes, humans, we think differently. We see patterns others don't. That's what matters." "You have shown the galaxy what humans can do," Cerelia said. "Not through brute strength, not through numbers, but through intelligence, intuition, and courage. That is why your presence is invaluable. That is why humans are not to be underestimated." Eli felt a swell of pride. He had started as a simple mechanic, repairing ships on a dock, unnoticed and overlooked. Now he had navigated a fleet through deadly space using only his mind, proving that human ingenuity could surpass even the most advanced civilizations. "Thank you," he said quietly. "For trusting me." Cerelia's lips curved slightly. "I did not trust you blindly. I observed you, your thought process, your skill. You have earned every bit of confidence I placed in you. Humanity is rare in its combination of instinct and intellect. You are the proof of that truth." Eli smiled, though exhaustion weighed on him. I never imagined humans could be seen like that in the galaxy. Usually we're underestimated." "Underestimated," Cerelia repeated, her voice soft but firm. "Yes, until now. You have changed that perception, human. Others will take note." Eli looked out at the fleet, gleaming and safe, and felt a surge of hope. Humans were small, yes, but capable of extraordinary feats. He had faced what seemed impossible and had succeeded. Not because of alien technology or sheer numbers, but because of human adaptability, creativity, and courage. As the fleet continued through safe space, Eli realized that the journey was only beginning. There would be more challenges, more anomalies, more dangers. But he no longer felt small or powerless. Humans had proven in that moment that their minds could match, even surpass, the greatest civilizations in ingenuity and problem-solving. "Prepare yourself," Cerelia said after a pause. "There are sectors ahead that are even less charted, less predictable. Your role will continue to be crucial. You will guide the fleet, anticipate dangers, and ensure survival where others would fail." Eli nodded, feeling a newfound sense of purpose. The human who had once been a mechanic on a forgotten dock had become a symbol of potential, a reminder that courage, adaptability, and intelligence could reshape the galaxy. He glanced at Cerelia. I'm ready. Whatever comes next, we'll face it." The Queen inclined her head, a gesture of approval and trust. "Good. Humans often surprise the galaxy, but few surprise it as profoundly as you. Remember this, Eli Varn: ingenuity and courage are weapons no one can take from you. You have shown that humanity has a place among the stars." Eli smiled, looking at the fleet stretching behind them, at the stars beyond, and finally at the ship he had once repaired without knowing its owner. The vessel had been a simple challenge at first. Now it was the gateway to proving the extraordinary potential of a human mind. And as he adjusted the controls for the next leg of the journey, he felt an undeniable truth settle in his heart. Humans were underestimated, yes, but that underestimation was their strength. They could think, adapt, and act in ways the galaxy never expected. And Eli, once a simple mechanic, had become the proof. The fleet glimmered like a living constellation, moving safely through the void. The Queen's vessel pulsed with steady energy, carrying not only advanced technology, but also a human mind that had changed the course of events. Eli knew this was only the beginning. Challenges would continue, dangers would arise, and the galaxy would test him again and again. But he was no longer ordinary. He was a human capable of extraordinary things. He had faced chaos, uncertainty, and danger, and prevailed. And humanity, through him, had proven its worth to the stars. For the first time in his life, Eli felt truly confident that humans could stand shoulder to shoulder with the greatest civilizations. Not because of machines, not because of power, but because of mind, courage, and ingenuity. That was the true strength of his people. And Eli Varn, the mechanic who had repaired a ship without knowing its owner, had shown the universe exactly what humans were capable of.